What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be making a quick little video going over this news post about the necromancy combat changes, as well as the announcement of the combat beta for magic range and melee updates. So we'll get right into this. So basically what Jagex is proposing is they're going to be removing all adrenaline costs associated with the Conjures. And this is a phenomenal change. If you guys saw my review of necromancy, you know this was a huge problem with necromancy as a whole. Like the adrenaline cost of specifically the ghost really, but the adrenaline cost of these conjures made them incredibly tedious to use, especially in fights longer than like a minute and a half or whatever, or 2 minutes, when the conjures kind of just wear off and go away. Having to resummon them is just god awful. So removing the adrenaline cost is actually going to be a phenomenal change. This is really nice to see. We're going to skip this one and go after this after, but they're also going to be introducing a new Conjure Undead Army. Basically, a Conjure All button comes in the talent tree at the top tier, and you can see a little gif of it here. It just summons them all real quick. There's a little menu you can see. But yeah, a Conjure All button, super nice, super helpful. And then let's get into this one. So they are going to be nerfing the Vengeful Ghost, specifically the special attack. This is completely fair if they're going to be removing the adrenaline cost associated with it. We'll see how powerful of a nerf it actually is. There's like a bunch of numbers down here. I'm not going to get super deep into that, but we'll obviously go over that. But if you want like super accurate and detailed numbers, this is probably not the best place to get that. But yeah, they're going to be nerfing the Vengeful Ghost. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't know how big of a change it's actually going to be, nerfing the Ghost. I think it's going to be a pretty big nerf, but since it doesn't cost adrenaline, it will allow your real rotations to actually be pretty solid. So hopefully we can use increased rotation potency to offset some of the Vengeful Ghost nerf. So yeah, I guess we'll see with that. Next up, the combat beta is coming out on October 30th. Obviously, they're going to be increasing the hit cap of all combat styles to 30,000. And they will also be changing the critical strike system here to the necromancy style crit system. We'll see how this does. Honestly, melee is the only one I see really benefiting from this. Magic should have almost no change. Like there'd be like minimal changes from this, but there probably won't be huge changes to magic, and range might see again like a small buff, bigger than magic, but not as much as melee. But melee, I think, is going to get a pretty significant buff from this. So I guess we'll see what happens. Maybe range could actually be very strong. We'll see. But yeah, I don't really want to talk about that too much until it comes out. They also released the drop tables for Hermit and Raziel. As you can see, Hermit is a 1 in 2,000 with a threshold of 400, which is amazing because I went 2,600 dry on this boss, which that's crazy. 1 in 320 for a weapon drop from Raziel, 1 in 128 for an armor drop at Raziel, and then a 1 in 1,500 with 300 threshold for the pet. Pretty standard drop rates. I figured it was somewhere around this. I figured Hermit was 1 out of like 5,000 or something. No, I figured Hermit is 1 out of 2,500 to be honest, but 1 out of 2,000 is actually insane that I went that dry. Unlucky. Next up, this is going to be going over all of the changes they're making to all 3 different commands and conjures. You can see they are changing all 3 of them. And they're also changing like these other things as well, so we'll get right into that. Basically, for the Skeleton Warrior, all you need to know is that they are nerfing the damage up front, but then making the damage at the back end a little bit higher. And basically how they're doing this is nerfing the initial damage range, but then making it so the rage stacks give you more damage % increase. I'm not sure how this will turn out compared to the current Skeleton Warrior, but it should maybe be pretty similar, I would hope. It's just a little bit of the damage is coming later rather than sooner. So maybe this will be a good change. I don't think it'll change too much. Next up, the Putrid Zombie ability. They're changing this. They're making it so the command as well as the passive is being nerfed pretty significantly. So basically the damage for the poison hit is going from 27 to 33%, or like a 30% average damage, all the way down to a 10% damage. So that's a pretty significant nerf to the amount of poison damage we're going to be doing. with the ghost or the zombie, I mean, and they're also reducing the proc rate of the poison from 1.8 seconds all the way up to 3 seconds. So that's a pretty significant nerf in both the damage potency as well as the proc rate. So this is probably going to be a relatively big nerf to the poison damage from the zombie. You can see here their justification, which this makes no sense to me, but basically they're saying that they think that this was way too much poison damage for minimal investment, and they would rather have poison builds have their moments but still require equipment to see their full effects, which I mean, I don't know. Big arrows exist. I guess they're technically equipment, but they're not that much harder to use than just summoning the ghost. So I don't know. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but whatever. Who really cares at the end of the day? Putrid zombie is putrid. You can now cast the command, so you can blow up the zombie without a target, which I guess could be good in some situations. So let's get into the Vengeful Ghost ability changes, because this is really going to be where a lot of the changes come in. So what they're doing is reducing the heal by 50%. So you're going to be healing less. The healing is also now going to be happening on hit rather than on the attack. And what this means is that if you have damage modifiers like Vuln or things like that, you're actually going to be healing more based on the vulnerability rather than before it was a fixed amount. So this is going to be a pretty solid change, I think, meaning that you can do things to increase your damage to also increase your heal rather than just getting a massive heal for free and then having no way to modify that. So I think this change is going to be a good change overall, but I think it's going to be a pretty significant nerf to the amount you heal with the ghost. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. The command ability is also getting a pretty big nerf. They're now making it so the duration of the haunting effect or the command ability is 30 seconds rather than the lifetime of the ghost. And although it doesn't cost any adrenaline to cast the command ability, this is actually going to be a massive nerf, especially for bosses where the ghost lasts pretty much the entire kill, like Raziel, things like that. This is going to be a massive nerf because now you're going to have to waste an entire attack or entire global cooldown on commanding the ghost. So you're just basically casting a shit ability that doesn't do anything, but it gives you the effect, obviously, rather than having to never cast this again. So this is a pretty big nerf in my opinion. I'm actually not a huge fan of this. One of my biggest problems with Necromancy, besides the two things they fixed above, is that commanding and conjuring is essentially a waste of an ability. Like, you're using a whole global cooldown to do essentially nothing. Like, you're not doing anything, you're just making a ghost do something. I don't know, it just doesn't feel that good. And this is further exacerbating that problem in my eyes, but I think with the removed adrenaline cost and stuff, it'll actually be all right, I think. I think changes to some other things, if they made it so you could cast them off global cooldown, would really make this all right. Part of my bigger problem with Necromancy is a lot of the stuff cannot be cast off global cooldown, right? Invoke Death, Threads of Fate, all that stuff, you can't cast it off global cooldown. Same thing with the Darkness ability, you can't cast these things off global cooldown, making it really awkward to try to fit these things into a fight rotation. You're just like casting something that's worthless. And yeah, they're just adding more of that, but they're removing adrenaline, so I don't know. This will probably be a fine change, not really that big of a deal. More upkeep though, you know, it's kind of iffy. They are also going to be changing the effect of the damage from the ghost to be, instead of it just doing a base damage, it will now be scaling, it looks like, off of your ability damage. I'm not entirely sure what this means exactly, but it looks like they are going to be reducing the damage of the ghost and then tying that damage to your weapon damage, or ability damage, I mean. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work, but you can see their intention here is to make it so you're benefiting from hard-hitting abilities while reducing how much damage you're being generated from like little hits. Oh, this is the special. Wait, no, sorry, I'm trolling. Basically, what this is doing is making it so you're going to be getting more of a damage effect from big abilities like Death Skulls and stuff, and less of a damage effect from things like Command Skeleton Warrior. So this, again, is probably a fair balancing change, but it might actually be a pretty big nerf. So again, we'll see how that plays out. I kind of read that wrong the first time. They're increasing the duration of life transfer from 24 seconds to 21 seconds. Wow. What? Why? I don't know. That's so goofy. One game tick. Maybe it's like trolling by one game tick so you can cast it one more time with this. I don't know. They're also changed from maximum life points to base life points. So this is actually a really nice change in my opinion. They're making it so instead of losing your life transferring half of your current life points, it's only off your base life points. You can see how this works here. If you have like 15k life points, you'll only lose 5,000 rather than 7,500. Good change. I wish they would let you cast this off global cooldown. Like that would be such a nice change for them to make with this. Same thing with Invoke Death, although you can cast this before the fight. They increased the duration to 12 seconds and it was 6 seconds before. This is wrong. This isn't how this ability works. This has bothered me about Invoke Death since it came out, is the tooltip is completely just wrong. It doesn't, like the ability doesn't work this way. The ability actually has a fairly long duration. You could cast Invoke Death before the Raziel fight starts, and as long as you were getting below like 1:30 kill, it would still activate at the end of the fight. It's not a 12-second duration. It wasn't a 6-second duration. You have quite a long duration of this ability, and I wish they would just completely rework this tooltip as well as make it castable off global cooldown. But yeah, I don't know. The way that this tooltip is worded is a joke. They should just completely redo it. I don't know who came up with this, to be honest. It makes no sense. But yeah, anyway. There was an over-reliance at the start of fights on being tick perfect with Invoke Death, which made it feel clunky. I mean, I never had a problem with it. I've seen people have this activate as long as like 1.5 minutes kills. I mean, there was no tick perfect anything. I don't know. The only thing you had to do was be in the actual room of Raziel before you cast it. Like you couldn't cast it outside the room. You had to cast it inside. I don't know. This entire ability is a joke. I think they should just make it castable off global cooldown and call it a day. Like, I don't know. It's not good. There's a few little general changes. I haven't read these. Necromancy shields will no longer cause conjured spirits to despawn. There is no necromancy shield. What? Necromancy shields are now classified as having an underworld connection, which allows them to maintain conjured spirits. I'm assuming Vorkath's dropping a shield and they're now changing this to have like something in place for when a shield comes out. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know why that wouldn't have been designed like that in the first place. You would think that the Necromancy shield just by default would also be a conduit or whatever is the thing needed to summon guys, but whatever. Resolved some issues with Deathmark. Sure. Apparently it would cast itself multiple times. What? You could reflect the insta-kill or the Deathmark to insta-kill yourself. That would actually be memes, I'm not gonna lie. But I guess that's a good fix. But that's everything. Kind of a long post. There's a bunch of data down here. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about these changes. I think having the Conjure All button is phenomenal. This is a really good change. I don't know why the Necromancy didn't release with this, to be honest. But yeah, Conjure All button is amazing. The removal of adrenaline costs from the Conjures is also really, really amazing. These were two huge problems I had with the entire combat style. And I think nerfing the Conjures is probably fair considering they're making them way easier to use and not require adrenaline. But yeah, what do you guys think about this? I think for the most part, these changes are really good and we'll see how they play out in game. But yeah, I think these are going to be really good changes. If you made it this far in the video, definitely drop a like on it. And thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.